So the first lunch that I made this week were these cauliflower vol-au-vent. This is actually a really nostalgic meal for me because we used to have it so much when I was younger, and to make them vegan today I decided to finely dice some cauliflower as well as leek. Then I melted some vegan butter in a saucepan and then added in the said diced cauliflower and leek. I fried it up for a minute or so and then added in coconut cream as well as some nutritional yeast, of course, to get it nice and creamy and delicious and give it that cheesy kind of flavor. So I continued cooking this and then added in salt as well as pepper and continued stirring so the leek and the cauliflower softened and we got lots of delicious flavor happening up in there. After that, I got my pastries. I filled them with the mixture, baked them in the oven for about 8 minutes, and then I served them hot. I also put some fresh spring onion on top just to give it a little bit of greenery happening, because I love spring onion in general, to be honest. Lately I've been into having wraps for lunch because they are just so easy, and this one is very, very easy in particular. So I first of all started with some soy tempeh, which I sliced a few pieces of that up. Then I put these into a container with some sesame oil as well as soy sauce. I then put the lid on and I shake this all up so the flavor gets all up in the tempeh and it gets super delicious. So then into a frying pan I put the tempeh, and the sesame oil makes it get nice and golden, which we absolutely love to see. I fried these until they got nice and crispy on both sides. Then when it came to making the wrap, I used one of these wraps I had never used before and it was really, really thin. I then put some vegan cream cheese on, and then I put some cos lettuce as well as some thinly sliced fresh tomato. I also put some pepper, and then I put my tempeh on. Super simple, not a whole heap of ingredients, but definitely full of flavor. And at this point I decided to try and roll this wrap up, and it just got so many holes in it, so then I decided to just wrap another wrap around it so that it wasn't as messy as it seemingly was going to be. I sliced it in half, and yes, this was my tempeh wrap that I enjoyed for lunch. Next up, we are making a super easy one pot pasta. To make this, I started with a large saucepan, which I put some olive oil in, and then I also added in some spring onions as well as some garlic and some chili flakes. Then I also added in some lightly dried basil, and I tossed this all together before adding in some crushed tinned tomatoes. I then filled this tin up with some water and added the water to the pot as well, stirring it all together so it was nice and well combined. Then I added in some pepper and some salt. After that, I then added in some pasta and I put the lid on to allow it to cook for a few minutes. You sort of want it to be bubbling away like so. It's definitely best to keep your eye on this whilst you're cooking it and add more water where necessary, just to ensure your pasta isn't sticking to the bottom. I cooked this for about 10 minutes, and then once it was all done, I served it into a bowl, topped it with some more basil, and this was, like I said, a really, really simple lunch and really, really delicious. Next up, we are making some rice paper rolls, one of my favorite lunches as the weather gets warmer. I decided to use some tempeh as the main protein in these rice paper rolls, so I started by slicing this up and then putting it into a bowl with some soy sauce as well as sesame oil, similar to what I had in my wrap earlier in the week. So I tossed this all in the sauce and then of course put it into a frying pan and fried up this tempeh until it was golden on both sides and nice and crispy. Then for the fresh vegetables, I started with some cucumber, which I sliced into these thin, I guess let's call them fingers. And then I also put some carrot as well and cut that similarly. Then I got some rice paper, which I wet until it was nice and easy to roll. I also added in some coriander into these rice paper rolls, and I decided to have 3 for lunch. Then I made a dipping sauce with some peanut butter as well as soy sauce and sesame oil and water. Super easy. I mixed it all together until it was nice and smooth, and yeah, this was a really, really delicious lunch. It's deceptively small, but the fats in in the sauce as well as the protein in the rice paper rolls. Keeps me really nice and full for a long time, which is why I really love having these as a lunch. Okay, next up we are making my favorite lunch at the moment. I have been eating this super regularly. I start by rinsing and draining some chickpeas before putting them onto a baking tray with some olive oil. I then toss this all together like so, and then added in some dried basil. I added some salt as well as some nutritional yeast, and I tossed this together until the chickpeas were nice and well coated. Then after that, I put these in the oven and I roasted them for about 8 to 10 minutes until they were nice and crispy. Whilst they were roasting, I started on my salad, so I put some spinach as well as some sun-dried tomatoes into a bowl. I tossed this together so that that oil from the sun-dried tomatoes got nice and coated on my spinach, and then I added my crispy oven-baked chickpeas. I added almost the whole tin of chickpeas because I personally love chickpeas so much, but you definitely don't have to do that if you don't want to. I then topped it with some vegan feta. After that, I then also sprinkled some hemp seeds on top. I love adding hemp seeds to so many of my meals because they are so good for you. They're super simple to add. They honestly don't have a huge amount of flavor, but it feels good to be doing good things for my body. Next up, we are making savory pancakes, and these are made on a base of chickpea flour, nutritional yeast, smoked paprika, salt and pepper, as well as some water and then some lemon juice. Then I put the lid on my blender and I blended this all together until it was a nice smooth pancake consistency. Then into a frying pan I put some oil, then added in my pancake mixture, topped it with some cherry tomatoes as well as some vegan feta, and then cooked pancakes as you would traditionally cook a sweet pancake. And then into the same pan, once the pancakes were done, I put some kale in with a bit of oil as well as nutritional yeast, and I tossed this together for a couple of minutes until it got lightly crispy. Okay, from there I've got my couple of pancakes. I then topped them with my crispy kale. Oh, this looks so good. And then I drizzled with some barbecue sauce because why not, you know? As my last lunch for the week, I made a warm black bean salad. So into a saucepan, I put some olive oil as well as some fresh corn that I had sliced off the cob. I then added in some black beans and I tossed this together in the oil. After this, I added in some rice. You can either pre-cook your rice or use microwavable rice, whatever works best for you. And then I tossed this all together before adding in some garlic powder as well as smoked paprika and continuing to mix it all together. After this, I then got some cos lettuce and I prepped it by cutting it nice and finely. I also then prepared some cherry tomatoes. I just chopped these into halves or quarters, or you know, you can eat them whole if you want to. You do what feels best for you. So then I put my black bean corn rice mixture into the bowl. I added the cos lettuce as well as the cherry tomatoes. I tossed this all together until it was nice and well combined, and then I topped with some coconut yogurt. I love coconut yogurt on savory food so much. I also then topped it with some spring onions as well as some fresh coriander. And yeah, this was really yummy. This is also a really great dinner, and it's also something that you could prepare in advance and then add fresh ingredients. So delicious, so easy. I hope you love it.